Hi and welcome back to Love English. If, like me, you don't always have the time to read a big, thick book, but you still want to be able to boost your vocabulary, to ensure that you're continuously developing your vocabulary in English and hopefully finding some new words that are more advanced, sophisticated, and will help you feel a little bit more intelligent when you speak. Now, in today's lesson, I am not going to be reading George Orwell's 1984, although I do recommend it, but I'm going to be sharing 10 verbs that I think are more advanced. 10 verbs that you actually will hear used frequently, often, in English, whether spoken, written, business, academic, or even just day-to-day conversation. These verbs are commonly used, but they are more formal, more academic, and a little bit more advanced. It's not necessarily about getting the reading glasses on, oh, that's better, and reading a big, thick book. The words are around you wherever you go. Whether you're listening to a conversation in English, watching the news, reading a newspaper, or indeed just surfing the internet, you will find a lot of these words, verbs, adjectives, nouns, wherever you go, when you are immersing yourself in English. But what I want you to do is try and limit the number of words you learn a day. Learning 10 words per day is a perfect number. Don't overstretch yourself. Don't think that you can learn 100 words a day. People that tell you to do that really are not giving you the best advice. It is much better to focus on 10 words. In this case, we're looking at 10 verbs. So narrowing that subject down, whether they're verbs, whether they're words for academic writing, whether they are advanced adjectives. Set yourself a target daily to help you broaden your vocabulary, and as I'm going to ask you to do in this lesson, make sure that you are actively using these words. So I'm going to give you 10 verbs. I'm going to copy and paste those 10 verbs in the description box below, and what I'm asking you to do is to copy and paste them into your comment and write a sentence with them. Yes, I'm giving you some homework. It is so important when you're learning new vocabulary that you actually put them into a context, a situation that is relevant to you. I don't want you to use the verbs today in a very random situation. No, I want you to think about a way that you personally could actually use these words. And like I said, these are 10 common advanced verbs in English that I use. I've actually paid attention to myself as I've been speaking, conversing with friends, family, and I've made a note of these verbs. So these are verbs that I would commonly use. They're not crazy, they're not too difficult to pronounce, and yep, they will instantly help you sound more intelligent in English. So, are you ready? Okay, number 1, to ascertain, ascertain. Now, to ascertain has predominantly 2 meanings. They're more or less similar. It can mean to discover something, or it can mean to make certain of something, to be sure something is true. So, to discover, the police have been unable to ascertain what caused the fire. The police have been unable to ascertain what caused the fire. To make sure of something, to be certain, I ascertained that no one could hear us before I told him the news. We really need to ascertain whether the figures are indeed accurate in the report. So, to ascertain, to discover, or to make sure of something. Remember, this is more formal, so you probably wouldn't say to your friend, I think we need to ascertain whether he actually wants to go out with you. Sounds strange. I think we need to find out or discover. In some situations, we would expect more informal, colloquial English rather than these more formal verbs. Number 2, to reciprocate. Reciprocate. This is referring to something that goes both ways. So for example, if you go to a friend's house to dinner and you have a lovely evening, at the end of the dinner you might say to them, I really must reciprocate this lovely meal. You'll have to visit us soon. Or, my feelings for him were not reciprocated. He really didn't feel the same way. So to reciprocate. To do something for someone when they have done it for you. It goes both ways. We've also got the adjective reciprocal. Reciprocal. Their feelings were reciprocal. Number 3, and I really do like this verb. I don't know why, but cajole. Cajole. It really does sound a bit strange when you say it, but it's a very common verb and it does sound a little bit more intelligent. So when you cajole someone into doing something, pay attention to the structure of the sentence there. So she cajoled me into going out for dinner that night when I was really too tired to go. So you're persuading someone to do something, talking them round in a convincing way to persuade them when really they didn't want to do that thing in the first place. You cajole someone into doing something. I managed to cajole her into staying a little bit longer. The most effective technique is to cajole rather than to threaten. So to talk someone around in order to persuade them. Number 4, to hinder. Hinder. This could essentially be substituted by the word prevent. It means to limit the ability of someone or something to do something. So it's making it difficult for that person to achieve what they want. You'd often hear the word hinder in a news broadcast. For example, high winds have hindered their efforts to control the fire. Or in the office, you might hear someone say, her constant talking over the desk was really hindering my concentration. Her lack of experience certainly hasn't hindered her progress here. So to hinder, to prevent or limit the ability of someone or something to do that thing that they wanted to do. Number 5, exacerbate. Exacerbate. Basically, to make something worse, more. Something that is already pretty bad, a lot worse. She exacerbated the situation by continuing to complain. Donald Trump often exacerbates political tensions that already exist. Are you aware that working in an environment where it's dusty can really exacerbate your asthma? There we go. To make a bad situation even worse. Number 6, to garner. Garner. To garner is to collect something that usually takes a lot of work and is quite difficult. Garner is usually used when referring to information and certainly approval. So for example, in a meeting, after many hours of discussion, you might say, we managed to garner support for the project. We managed to garner support for the project. The police struggled to garner sufficient evidence. The police struggled to garner sufficient evidence. Number 7, to facilitate. Facilitate. Again, another common, more formal verb that we would use when we're talking about making something easier or possible. So, we were able to facilitate the discussion by sitting them both down in the office. The new ramp will facilitate the entry of wheelchairs. The current structure of the business does not facilitate efficient workflow. So there we go, to facilitate, to make something possible or easier. To facilitate is almost an antonym of hinder, whereas hinder you would refer to limiting or preventing something from happening. Facilitate is allowing it to happen, making it easier and possible. Number 8, could you elaborate on that a little bit further? Fascinating. So to elaborate is to explain, to go into more detail. So rather than saying, what do you mean, or explain further, you could say, could you elaborate further? Could you talk in more detail and explain to me a little bit more? This could be because maybe you don't understand everything that they're explaining, or that you genuinely are very interested and you want them to elaborate. So a great verb, particularly for a business situation. Right, number 9. This is actually a noun, but it collocates with a verb. You need this verb with this noun in order to have the full phrase. So, to take umbrage. To take umbrage. Now, I've included this verb noun collocation because it's one that I would often use. Basically, it means to feel upset, to feel maybe even offended in some way, because you feel someone has been rude or disrespectful in some way. I think she took umbrage when you dismissed her suggestion in the meeting. So to take umbrage, she took umbrage, he took umbrage. To become upset, annoyed, because you feel that someone has been rude or disrespectful. No need to take umbrage. I wasn't intending to offend. And finally, number 10, to reiterate. Reiterate. To say something again, once or several times. Just to reiterate, we need to be here at 10 o'clock tomorrow for the meeting. So rather than saying, I need to tell you again, I want to say again, say just to reiterate. just to reiterate. The government has reiterated its warnings regarding coronavirus and social distancing. So there we have it, 10 simple but advanced and commonly used verbs in English. And like I said, don't be lazy, comment below and try using some of these 10 verbs. And let me know, how many of those verbs did you already know? I would be very impressed if you knew more than 5. I think these are verbs that you would more commonly associate with more advanced or even native English speakers. But there's nothing stopping you from using them now. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know what other advanced words would you like to learn. Take care. Bye.